Now, after nearly 8 months of no operations, Comair is back in the sky. The airline went into business rescue in May. It's now found new investors. Heidi Jakas is following this story for us. She joins us now live. So, Heidi, Comair flying again. Good news, of course, for jobs. You, of course, are living the high life, hey? So what do you have for us?
I wouldn't call it the high life, Shahan. It's actually quite stressful. It's also important to note the fact that Comair has indeed started to fly again after 8 months. They stopped flying in March because of lockdown, and then they went into business rescue. And I think on many South Africans' minds is whether or not pilots were flying during this time, because it was, of course, very difficult because the airline was not operating domestically, and today is the very first day. So were they being trained? We do understand that pilots need to clock in a certain amount of hours when flying, but we are joined by Captain Johan Visser, who will explain all of this to us. Thanks so much for your time, Captain. I think, first of all, the big question is, what were pilots doing during the time of lockdown? Of course, you need to clock in a certain amount of flying hours, and that, of course, will ease South Africans to know that they're in very safe and capable hands.
Yes, Heidi, thank you. Most pilots that I know that fly for Comair had no other recourse in terms of flying aircraft. Some of them were instructors or contract pilots that had the opportunity to go back to what they did before. But flying in an environment like this, obviously, it's an expensive exercise to come train in a flight simulator such as this. And the regulation requires several factors to be kept up to date for a pilot to be able to fly an aircraft with passengers on board. And it starts off with your instrument rating, which is typically valid for a year. Your pilot's medical is valid for a year. Your pilot proficiency check, which is a 4-hour session that you need to do in a device like this, that lapses after 6 months. Then there's various ground subjects that you have to be able to do examinations on, like dangerous goods awareness courses, safety and emergency procedures training courses, crew resource management. All of these things have expiry dates to the pilot's license. And typically when you pass about 3 months of not flying this aircraft, you run out of what we call recency. That is the amount of takeoffs and landings that you have to do in an aircraft of this nature before you can fly with passengers. So we knew from the start that pilots were going to expire because we did not have these devices available. By the end of 6 months, which is today up to 9 months, we knew that we had to retrain and requalify the pilots in all those disciplines, which is what we've been doing for the past month and a half full steam.
So, Captain, is it safe to say that most pilots have been retrained? You know, you use the word expired, so most pilots aren't expired because they use facilities such like this, the simulator, to clock in those hours, to train, and to get the necessary experience. I wish we had more time to actually show how you train, but we'll do that afterwards. But just in terms of this kind of facility, this is what's used to train the pilots.
Yes, ma'am. This is a full flight simulator, which is the next best thing to an aeroplane. So if you get to the stage where you're flying this device after you've done your classroom training and all the other items that have expired on your license, then it is like flying the aircraft. So what we've done for the restart of operations right now, and you asked the questions, most pilots, have they been trained? Yes, we are. We will reach the full Johannesburg-based complement of 150 pilots by the 4th, and all Comair pilots will be trained up by the 18th of December. So from the 1st of November, we had these devices available full-time to us, and we put the pilots through their paces, which are typically 3 simulator sessions of 4 hours each.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. So, Shahan, I don't know how quickly I can train to become a pilot or quickly fly to Lanseria or Cape Town. Perhaps I'll be your next pilot for your next trip. But we are going to find out what all these buttons are for and what exactly is the process when a pilot gets into the cockpit and flies off. So it's an amazing thing to see about all these buttons. And if one could actually see how it looks outside, it's a massive machine that pilots come in to train, and it's important because during lockdown, of course, they weren't able to train as aviation was basically shut down during the hard lockdown. So this is the experience that most pilots have been facing, and of course they're able to train and get the hours that are needed to fly.
You'll probably have to do that for 5 years before I let you fly me anywhere. Heidi Jacques, we're going to leave it right there.